Well, boys and girls, it's another beautiful day in the neighborhood. Here in the shop. I'm Zach. Christopher. Together we are Dream EV. Still working on Tesla Gone. The electric powered van again.
Yes. Today we got a big day. We're going to get started on the wiring. We did a lot of prep in the last episode to get us to this point, running a mock-up rope harness. We inventoried all our plugs. We should have most of the things and most of the information necessary to begin. So we're going to jump right in and probably start with CAN bus. It's one of the more complicated systems, so I think that's where we're going to start today.
Yep. All right. Let's take a look.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the loop terminal, you'll have to put resistance. This and one of that. Right? Sounds like a huge pain in the ass.
Okay, go ahead and turn it off. Thanks, Zach. God!
That's all going in.
Oh, you got it. What is CAN? CAN is a communication protocol designed for cars to reduce the complexity of the wiring system. As safety features increase and passenger comforts increase, and as the computational demand to communicate between all of these systems on a car increase, the natural response for an automaker is to reduce costs and figure out a way to simplify those electrical systems. CAN has a two-wire interface with a high and a low signal wire. A CAN network consists of many devices on a daisy chain multi-station network with two 120 ohm resistors on both ends. You can see the individual items on the network. You can see the high wire, the low wire, and the resistors. Okay, now let's talk about the actual wiring of CAN. Now down here we have our diagram. We have a CAN high and we have a CAN low. These are commonly exposed via the OBD2 port, which is a 16-pin connector that's on most modern cars right there. Right? On pins 6 and 14, we have our CAN high and we have our CAN low. Other manufacturers use different combinations of these pairs, 12 and 13, 3 and 11. But the most common is 6 and 14. So this first one we're going to do is going to be a shielded CAN wire, and what that has is that has a wire mesh tube around it, and then it's also covered in plastic. And we're doing this for a couple legs in this CAN bus circuit because these run parallel with our high voltage wires, and they are recommended to be shielded. So a few of these runs will look different than the other, but it really won't matter too much in the end because it should do what we need. There's nothing special to the twist, it just needs to be twisted. And this is due to electromagnetic interference and like the physics of electricity traveling along these wires, and all sorts of different interference patterns and all sorts of different, mathy equations. I don't know if there's an ideal twist or if there is a minimum twist. I have not read any of that. I think it just needs to be straight up twisted. If you have the need for a shielded wire, they also make that as well. It comes pre-twisted, wrapped in a grounding mesh tube, I guess you would call it, and then it has a plastic coating. It doesn't take anything fancy to join CAN bus wires. It just takes an electrical connection. You want to connect high to high and low to low. You can split out one leg of a CAN bus wire, or you can split out multiple legs of a CAN bus wire. When you're working with shielded CAN bus wire, what you need to do is expose the shielding. You have to make a hole in it and then extract your wires through. And once you have your wires poked through, we have access to ground them. And at that point, all you have to do is connect this shielding to ground. We have two options. We can use an open barrel crimp, or we can use a solder tube. In the case of a solder tube, all you have to do is take your wire, connect it, overlap everything in the assembly with your silver solder ring, heat it up, and you're ready to go. Last but not least is the resistors. The CAN bus spec requires two 120 ohm resistors on both ends of the trunk, no more, no less. If you have a differing amount of resistance overall in your system, things are not going to respond appropriately and you're not going to have a good time. We have a couple different options available to us. One is a PCB mount type resistor with leads poking out that you can just crimp straight up into your wire. The other is a Dutch DTM style plug that has a resistor built in and has a plastic cap right there. You can just straight up take and crimp this into your wire harness. Either works, you just need the resistance. We have 3 CAN buses in our van, one for the main chassis, one for the brake,
one for the radar.
This is because CAN bus is a noisy protocol with a bunch of different devices talking to each other all the time. Manufacturers have come to adopt multiple CAN bus lines so that mission critical messages will always get relayed. It's raining. We're gonna keep working.
It's loud when it rains. Yeah, I'm just gonna use shot. I'll tell you what I'm doing. We have a lot of animals that are as intelligent as octopus, but they're all vertebrates. So, you know, parrots are very intelligent. Of course, humans, chimpanzees, dolphins, all these animals, but they're all vertebrates and come from that line of the evolutionary tree. It's very similar style, brain, central nervous system, all very similar. But octopuses are just so different. Like, they branched off of the evolutionary tree way down here and are so dissimilar, and yet are still just as intelligent as a lot of vertebrates. And that's kind of the thing that's fascinating, is that in the evolutionary line, in two very different paths, evolution led to a very intelligent creature, because they don't have a central brain. Each arm is a part of the brain. The whole body is like a brain.
That's interesting.
Yeah, they're very, very interesting creatures. I find them absolutely fascinating.
Can you imagine messing with people at a zoo, Just hopping out of your tank and grabbing somebody's Diet Coke, popping back in, being I'm frustrated
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing about them, in aquariums and things, they have to come up with really secure tanks and things to put octopuses in, because you put them in a normal tank, they escape. It's a very common thing for octopuses to escape from aquariums. They're fascinating.